from Nashville, Tennessee, this is Hope for the Caregiver. I am Peter Rosenberger, bringing you more than 3 decades of experience to help you stay strong and healthy as you take care of someone who is not. We're glad you're with us. If you want to be on the show, 877-655-6755 is the number, and this station is going across the United States. It is the only syndicated radio show for caregivers, exclusively for caregivers, hosted by a caregiver. Why? Because there are 65 million of us who are caring for a vulnerable loved one, someone with special needs, someone who is aging, someone who's chronically ill, child with special needs. There are all kinds of different scenarios out there. How do you help a caregiver? What does it look like? Do you just say, well, get a good night's rest, eat something healthy? Is that what we do? No. This show is all about giving very specific help to those who are giving very specific help, and we're glad you're with us. 877-655-6755 if you want to be on the show, if you're struggling with something right now that you need some help with, if you want to vent a little bit, if you just have a question, if you're struggling, if you're just alone, feeling alone in this is the place for you, and we'd love to hear from you. And when you call, guess what? You're going to get routed to the man himself, the Baron of the Board, the Sultan of Sound, the Earl of Engineering, the man who sells timeshares on the International Space Station. He is John Butler, the Count of Mighty Disco, everyone.
Oh, Peter. Oh, that was a good one. That was I am a huge fan of all things space anyway. So that was
well,
that
you
was
take up
special.
a lot of space.
Oh,
You're a tall guy.
This is true.
Not.
I can reach the International Space Station.
In fact,
all of
can't
my
you push
selfies-
it back into orbit?
No, that's where I take my selfies from.
Can you push it back into orbit?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, it's in a stable orbit right now.
No, it's crashing in the next 24 hours.
No, not the International
Not
Space
the
Station.
International.
That's that Chinese thing. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
knockoff. You don't know.
All right.
So and
It's not the Louis Vuitton knockoff.
this is correct. And that other voice you hear is, of course, Gracie.
That is my wife, Gracie, who I've asked Gracie to kind of allow us to at least introduce her. Oh, no, she just jumps right in.
No. This is the thing. Well, because Gracie is here for a very special reason.
I am. I'm here because Peter, John, and I've wanted to tell you this for
Ratings.
John and I've been meaning to tell you this for a long time now.
We have an announcement.
And the show is no longer called whatever you call it, the Peter Rosenberger, whatever.
No, it's called Hope for the Caregiver, and I think now it's going to be called Medicine for the Caregiver.
It's
Prescriptions for the Caregiver.
It's going to be called the John and Gracie Show.
Oh, no, it's
with
been
Peter.
John and Gracie show for a
Featuring
long-
Peter Rosenberger.
Well, listen,
Featuring occasionally when we want to.
Back to the topic at hand. Where do you think the space station, this Chinese knockoff
No.
space station,
This
whatever
is
it
important.
Where's it gonna land?
No, because this is a special day, Peter.
Yeah.
It is a special day.
It is
Not because of you two knuckleheads, but it is a special day.
But yes,
it's special because
we've officially changed the show. It's the John and Gracie show featuring Peter Rosenberger.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I love sound effects. I'm digging it.
But yeah, so the space station.
Where do you think it's going to land?
I heard it was math will tell us, but I don't know exactly what the results of that have been. But I wanted to say somewhere in Montana.
Well, I'm kind of hoping. I'm kind of somewhere hoping in the Green Hills area.
Oh yeah. Take out some of this
Peter, that's
traffic.
not nice.
Yeah. Well, I'll just get a piece of the action.
For those of you listening outside of Nashville, the Green Hills area is notoriously terrible for traffic. Yeah.
It is.
I just don't want it to land on someone's house.
Well, I don't think it will. I think it'll burn up before then. Speaking of burning up before then,
I don't think so.
we have. Let's get right to the business at hand. Like I said, if you want to be on the show, Gracie's with us today. This is Easter Sunday. We're thrilled to have her. She sang this morning, did a great job with our friends Winona and Anthony McGowan. It was fabulous. They really rocked the joint. That's not really the right way to say about singing in church, is it? They really rocked it. They brought it today. We had church today, and they did a great job of it. And it's good to hear you sing again, Gracie. We're going to play a little bit of stuff from you a little bit later.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job with it. You've come through some many dangers, toils, and snares. For those of you who just now listen to the show and our new affiliates across the country, my wife here just had in January her 80th surgery. 80 that we can count. That's not the smaller procedures. That's just the big ones. I don't know how many, who knows how many of you really had, but both legs amputated, just this has been going on for 35 years. They have been amputating your legs for 35 years, but
That's
they
good.
they have been working on you for 35 years.
Amputation's not my problem. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at my problem.
Yeah, I kind of saw that one coming. You got to telegraph that one.
I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry.
Why are you apologizing to John?
I'm apologizing to John because I don't need to apologize to you.
This is true. You don't need to apologize. Love means never having to say you're sorry. And Gracie must love me a lot. But it's
I love. He says amputation in both legs. Like no, that was the answer actually.
But it's been a quite a journey, and yet here we are, and we're laughing and cutting up and being kind of stupid like we are. And you do have to have a sense of humor about it, but it doesn't go unnoticed that it's been quite a journey for you. So I'm glad you're here. It brings us, though, to our caregiver tip of the day. Our caregiver tip of the day. Our caregiver tip of the day brought to you by AARP of Tennessee. And this is something we like to do every week, just something that you can hang your hat on, of something you can incorporate in your life right now. I mean, just right at this moment. It costs absolutely nothing to do these things. These are just little tips I've learned over the years. Most of the things I've learned the hard way. And this one is, don't just do something, sit there. Don't just do something, sit there. Now, let me
that's a coffee table book.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to make a coffee table book about
coffee table.
Coffee table.
There you go.
But it's
legs that fold out.
Or prosthetic legs.
We got a live one.
Oh, man. I think I may have to turn the camera just so people can see Grace. She's belly laughing over there. But it's
that's not what you call. No, you say I laugh like a drunken Viking.
You do. And but don't just do something, sit there. Because all too often we caregivers tend to be a little bit on the frantic side and frenetic. John likes that word, frenetic.
I do. It's from the $7 column on the big board of words.
On the big board of words. And so we tend to be a flurry of activity because it makes us feel productive. It makes us feel in control. It makes us feel like we're actually involved in something if we're looking busy. But looking busy is not really the goal here. The goal is sustainability. And we're not going to be able to sustain that level of kinetic energy. It's like being up on blocks, but our RPMs are running about,
Well, and the sustainability part is very important there. Excellence is not an act. It is a habit.
It is. And unfortunately, so many caregivers, I chief among them, tend to equate, busyness with being effective. And that's not the case. We need to learn to be still and just sit there and never doubt the power of inactivity. A lot of people tell me, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I thought, well, okay, then don't do anything. Just be still. Now, I say this like I own it, but Gracie will tell you that I don't. There are many times when I have to learn to just sit down and be still.
And when have you done that?
Often.
Okay.
I've had to learn it often. And I don't know that I own it.
Well, and that's one of those invisible things. When you do things right, a lot of times you're not going to get noticed for it. This is
correct.
And that's not the point. The point is not to get noticed for it. The point is to be better at this.
Well, it is. It's not, and it's not to feel better about it. It's to be better, and that's the whole point of what we're trying to accomplish here. But if learning to be still is a real key for us as caregivers, because it's in that stillness when we can just come to grips with what we're really dealing with, what's really going on with us here. What's this all about? And oftentimes, way too often, we're running around to the point where we exhaust ourselves and everyone around us. And that's not appropriate and that's not healthy. And so one of the things I try to incorporate in my life is just to learn to be still. Now, I have a real problem with that at times. And Gracie will tell you, I mean, sometimes I'm just, prancing around and blowing like a thoroughbred, getting ready to run a race here or just finishing one. And I don't know what still looks like sometimes. So I have to remind myself of these things. But I've looked through all of Scripture, read it cover to cover, and not one time did I ever see anybody in any passage of Scripture get out there and look busy. But I've seen a lot of passages that say, be still. Be still.
I seem to remember one of the big rules being there was a day you were supposed to rest.
There's a Sabbath rest, and Sabbath rest is a mindset, not just a day.
It absolutely is. I firmly believe that there's a reason that you need to take a day off in the week.
And taking that day off doesn't mean just using that time to go work on non-vocational work things. Rest is not sleep either. I've learned that over the years. Rest ain't sleep. We can sleep, but we're not necessarily resting. Resting is a different concept, and it's recognizing it's okay for me to sit down because the whole world is not going to fall apart if I take a few moments to sit down. This is something I think that all of us can benefit from doing. I know I can, and I've seen this even with Gracie sometimes, that when you get really agitated with your pain and everything else, sometimes you just got to be still. Now, it's hard for you to do that. When you're in pain all the time, it's hard to be still. It's hard for you to be still anyway.
Well, but you don't make it any easier.
Oh, I'm
say.
certain of it. But
John and I have a tip for the day.
Well, let's finish. Well, before we get into yours and John's,
yours was kind of getting boring, so we'd move on.
Tell me how you really feel, Gracie.
So John, the Gracie and John tip for the day is.
Well, let me finish our caregiver tip. Our caregiver tip of the day brought to you by the wonderful folks at AARP of Tennessee, aarp.org/TN. They got a lot of resources for caregivers. Go take a look at it. Okay, what is yours and John's tip of the day?
Okay, ready?
This is Gracie and John's tip of the day. Do you have theme music? No, you don't get the caregiver tip of the day theme music. No, that's proprietary.
John.
No, I got you. I got y'all set up.
That's great. Okay.
Somehow
here it is. Here's the tip for the day from John and Gracie and John. Okay.
The music's playing. So
all right.
Hurry up.
All right. So here it is. If you can pay someone to do it, it's not part of taking care of whoever you're helping take care of. But it's not part of caregiving.
No, it's part of caregiving. It's not part of caregiver's heart.
Well, but it's not okay. It's not part of the relationship. It's part of the relationship. That's yeah.
There's a relationship and there are tasks.
Exactly. And if it's a task you can pay someone else to do, it's not part of the relationship.
Okay.
That's what John told me to tell you.
Gracie,
there you go.
We gotta go, baby. All right, we'll be right back. This is Peter Rosenberger. Welcome back to the show for caregivers, about caregivers, hosted by a caregiver. That voice, I have heard that voice for a lifetime, and that is my wife, Gracie, with our dear friend Johnny Erickson Tata singing a fabulous duet of Because He Lives. Today is Easter Sunday. Because He Lives, we can face tomorrow. And I love that, Gracie. You did a great job on that. Boy, you were hitting some notes that you hadn't hit in a while.
Thank you.
Well, we were kind of concerned that you wouldn't be able to sing after all these surgeries the last couple of years, that your everything seemed like it was kind of going south on you, and you got in the studio with Chris Latham and I, and Chris and I were in the control booth, and Chris and I wrote the theme song for my show, and it's and just a wonderful guy. He was in college with us, and we were working on this song. This is songs for your new record that we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it the slow way, one measure at a time. No, we're laying down song after song, but you did a great job on that. And,
Thank you.
And we were great. I'm grateful that your voice is back, and it was great to hear you and Johnny together. It's the second duet that you guys have done together, and it's a wonderful thing to hear. And I know that everybody that's heard it has just dropped their jaw. And I remember Johnny was telling me, because for those of you who don't know Johnny Erickson Tata, she is just a wonderful, inspiring woman, written all kinds of books. She's been living with quadriplegia for over 50 years. And I remember telling her, so Johnny, I want you, Gracie, to do this duet together. And I gave her the track, kind of laid it out, and she said, "Well, Peter, isn't it a little bit slow?" And I said, "Johnny, just sing the song. I've got one woman in a wheelchair that argues with me. I don't need two." And
Which I would love to know what she said to that.
Well, Johnny's going to be gracious, and she'll just say, "I'll put you on a lot of prayer list."
Oh, bless
But,
your heart.
No, she and Gracie delivered a wonderful vocal for this, and it's a pleasure to produce them. So, anyway, you did a great job on that, Gracie, and I love that old classic of the Gaither song, "Because He Lives." And if you want, you guys, it's all available on iTunes. If anybody wants to get it, you can go out and see it on our webpage at standingwithhope.com, and then it's available on iTunes and Amazon and so forth. All right, let's get to this little section here. Now, Gracie, I don't want you to eat up all my time here when I do this, because I know you can hijack this show really quick.
Yes.
Today's senior moment. Today's senior moment brought to you by Morning Point, morningpoint.com, Memory Care and Living Center, Senior Living Center, Morning Point with an E, point, P-O-I-N-T-E. We talk about different things that seniors may be going through and some kind of tips to deal with that. And one of the things I wanted to share today is a lot of people tell me this. They're talking with their aging parents and they're getting frustrated with them. And sometimes it seems like that the aging parents are giving the caregivers and the family members a rough time, giving them a hard time. And that happens.
Yeah.
However, I just want to give you maybe a different approach to it, that maybe they're not just giving you a hard time. Maybe they are having a hard time.
That's because it's very difficult if you're dealing with dementia or you're dealing with any sort of cognitive impairment. You can't really see the person. You can't argue with diabetes, like we say a lot,
right?
You know?
And so it's easy to equate that it's being directed at you personally, but is it really? And sometimes Gracie gives it personally. I mean, sometimes
it's purposely directed at you for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, that's earnd though.
Yeah,
that's
and
earned.
It's always going to be a mix of things. It's very difficult to suss out, where where the origins of a particular behavior or a thing are, because we're not so great at introspection sometimes, or we have a bias towards our own actions.
Well, also you don't want to lose your independence. I mean, when somebody talks about moving you someplace, and you don't want to be moving someplace.
I haven't talked about moving you
This is the senior moment, Peter.
Okay, I'm just saying. Okay,
I just want to clarify that I have
Can
not.
we go back to the car that you sold when you thought I was going to die? Okay. It's true.
Okay.
I mean, really, you're going to regret that moment for the rest of your life.
Just add it to the list.
And mine.
But
seriously,
they may not be giving you a hard time. They may just be having a hard time. And I think that if we can detach from it being about us personally and be a little bit more compassionate to where they are, it will ease that sting a bit.
Think about claustrophobia and losing your independence and not being, I mean, that's what, I mean, I think that's what anybody deals with that has any kind of disability. And then you deal with being a senior on top of that, going, hey, wait a minute, I want to stay in my house. Listen, if you said I had to move out of my house, I'd be saying, oh, you're going to have to be looking for a different chick, buddy. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's got to be incredibly hard.
That's the visceral reaction, yeah. But that's not, because these are things that it's a very hard thing to do. But if we can detach from these things about making it about us and see them that they're having a hard time, that makes it a little bit easier for the journey. Makes it a little bit easier for the journey, and that's the whole point of it. Hey, this is Hope for the Caregiver. This is the nation's #1 show for the family caregiver. We're glad you're with us. 877-655-6755. We'll be right back.
An iHeart radio station.
Welcome back to the show for Caregivers, about caregivers, hosted by a caregiver. I am Peter Rosenberger. I'm glad you're with us. If you want to be on the show, 877-655-6755, and we'd love to hear from you. That is the second chapter of Acts. That's the name of that group.
That is correct, yes.
The second chapter of Acts. That's the Ward siblings. It's Nellie, Annie, and Matthew Ward.
Rocking out.
And they were back in the 70s, long before you came around, Count of Mighty Disco. They were the cat's meow. I just love them. So thank you for that. Hey, listen, let's go to the phones here. And what do we got, John?
Well, we have Anthony.
Anthony.
Oh, hang on just a second.
Anthony.
Anthony.
The Anthony.
Yes, Anthony from Nashville, Tennessee is on the air.
Anthony, you with us?
I'm with you, Peter, and Gracie,
listen,
and John.
and John.
So
Peter, Gracie,
you,
and John.
Anthony.
Hey, listen, Anthony, thank you for calling in. You were texting me during the break there, and you're dealing with some stuff yourself as a caregiver. But before we get into that, you and Winona and Gracie just sang marvelously this morning. That was such a great time with you guys.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, Peter, and Winona sends a thank you. Let me just tell you that, you was right about describing that place where we sang that today. You said that probably wasn't the best way to say that, but I
have no idea what you're talking about, Anthony. What do you say?
Oh, okay.
What do you say?
But anyway,
Anthony, one conversation at a time. Now you have to stop that now, okay?
Yeah. So anyway, it was through God today that we were able to do what we did today, and such a powerful service. And as Winona and I were sitting here before we go in to visit with my mother-in-law, the last segment that you were talking about, dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, it just kind of gives us a little hope and how to deal with how she's feeling.
Well, it's hard to see that sometimes, isn't it?
It is, Peter, because we go in trying to take care of her, and over the last couple of days, my mother-in-law, the first thing she says to us is just sit down. And
now, you're not one to sit down, are you?
No, it's hard. It's hard to sit down. but anyway, we just wanted to call in and let you and Gracie, and we're looking forward to meeting John.
Oh, everybody looks forward to meeting John.
Everybody looks up to meeting John.
Anthony, look, my goal in life is for my hair to be as long as John's. I'm just saying. Okay.
Well, you know what? I tell you, Gracie, thank you for renaming that show with John. I know that
we're milking this.
I know that Peter's a little upset about that.
just tore up, but resigned to it.
But anyway, I just wanted to, before we go in to visit with my mother-in-law, we just wanted to touch bases with you guys and let you know we support you. And Peter, thank you for doing all that you have done in the eyes of being a caregiver. And, as my wife was dealing with esophageal cancer in 2012.
I remember it.
And I just was able to take a book that you had wrote and take a glance through that. And it just helped me along with knowing how to take care of my wife a little bit better, until she would tell me, all I want you to do, Anthony, is just sit down, just sit down.
Don't just do something. Don't just do something. Sit there.
Yeah. And that was enough for her during that time, So sometimes, and as you said, it is difficult to be still because you want to do everything that you can for a individual, a loved one, a spouse, or a mother or grandparent that you can. But, sometimes I think we can probably get on the patient's nerves as well.
Well, I think there's ample place to get on each other's nerves on this journey, and the whole point is to try to see it from a different perspective, and that's what you're doing. You and Winona are doing it. I got to ask you real quick that I got to jump on here with another call, but I want to ask you, Winona, when dealing with your mother, who has more patience, you or Anthony?
He does.
He does?
Yes, he does.
Well, that's good. Anthony, that's a good thing to hear, isn't it?
It is, Peter, because, I think about how it's even affecting my wife to watch her mother go through what she's going through.
Well, this is a situation across the country where people are dealing with this, and husbands are watching their wives take care of parents, and the whole thing is just kind of snowballing, and that's why we do the show. But I had no doubt, by the way, that you would be gentle and patient, because you are in everything that you do. You and Winona are just such dear people, and I'm very grateful to know you and to do music with you. And you love my wife and you care for her, and we got to do some more music together, don't we?
We sure do, Peter, and I'm looking forward to that. And I will let you take that other caller. And Gracie, we love you.
We love you. I love you.
Hey,
Thank you so much for singing with me today.
John, we love John too. We love John too.
I'm looking forward to meeting this Anthony.
To know John is to love John. Well, listen, we're going to switch gears and go on up to Virginia and take another call from Edison. Edison, you took care of your mother during her last years.
I had the privilege and honor of taking care of my mother for the last 5.5 years of her life. The last 3.5 years, she had many strokes, and not many strokes. I'm saying multiple strokes, and it was very hard working 10, 12, 15, 16 hours a day, and then coming home and getting up in the morning for therapy, and in the afternoon for shots, and then going to work and working another 12, 15, and it took its toll on me the last 3.5 years. But I do have to commend you on a couple of things. First and foremost, my mother very rarely, there was times when she was very uplifted, but your wife, through all the many trials and tribulations that she's gone through, she seems to be very uplifting and very happy. She's full of vigor and generosity. You could tell it in her voice, and she is very happy. And I think a person's demeanor and their attitude is a lot to it. And apart from the love of God, I don't know how anyone would get that. Anyway, I thank you for your show. And I know we love double tracking, don't we? I'm a musician as well. And
Edison, what do you play?
I play guitar. That's my main instrument, but I play several instruments, but guitar is my primary instrument.
Yes, sir. Do you write songs? Do you write songs?
Yes, I do, but I don't do it for anyone else. I do it for my own self and my own.
That's okay. That's the best kind of songwriter is the ones that.
That's me and the piano.
Yeah, that's and have you written a song about this journey that you had with your mother?
No, I haven't. I didn't really feel led to, but I tell you what I have felt led to do is I know this sounds well, it probably won't to y'all, and I thought about it. Maybe you would pray for me, but I wanted to become a caregiver for someone else. Somewhere out there, there's somebody that's sitting there that's real frustrated on how to button a sweater or how to pick up something to carry, or they need help in some way. And I pray that God would lead me to someone that I could help again in life. It was one of the greatest. It was hard at the time. But I would love to be able to help someone else for, a couple of days a week or something like that, volunteer my time.
Wow.
So, look, thank you so much. God bless you. Again, your wife has got to hear her laugh after so many operations and so much she's gone through. It's by the grace of God.
I'll let you in on a little, not too much of a secret. She's this way all the time. She's kind of
right. I know better than that.
She really is. She really is.
Even have a day where she wants to get on the radio and talk.
No, she really is. She's pretty goofy that way, and I think that's what. Now, when I first met her, I will tell you this.
Oh Lord,
that she took herself a little bit serious. Now, she'd already been hurt by the time I met her. But most of the
I would like okay.
But you'd only had 20 surgeries by the time I met you.
No, I had 24. But we're not going to go there since you weren't there.
Well, I didn't know you.
I didn't know you until 2.5 years after.
But the point of me saying this is
people think that I knew you when I had the accent. And they're like, "Oh, Peter, that was so phenomenal. I mean, what a guy. I mean, I'm like, wait a minute.
Somewhere I lost control of this show here, but it's she's this way now. She did take herself pretty seriously, but she's learned to laugh, and she has a very contagious laugh. She looks at things very positive. And when she gets discouraged and down, and she does, she sings to herself and she strengthens herself in this. That's why the music that we do is such an important part of our life, because that's how she's able to rise. You don't really rise above, you transcend it. I think that's the better word, transcend it.
I like that.
And oh, thank you, John. John's
transpose, transcend. Yeah.
Transpose. Yeah. We transpose it.
Look,
we put the MIDI on there.
All right, Kierkegaard, let's dial it back. All right,
we put a capo on it, but she does, and so music does. So that's a big part of your life, Edison, is your music, and I'd love. It's really awesome that you're a session player, and I hope that you'll take some time to kind of write some songs about this and express it musically. But
also, I want him to look into being the fact that it's on his heart to be a caregiver for somebody else. One of the people that relieves you, Peter, is a lady that didn't realize that she even wanted to be a caregiver until she took care of her grandmother to her death. And she realized, oh my goodness, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I just think that's phenomenal, Edison, that you want to give back like that. And there's just so few people. I mean, that takes somebody that understands literally, even if you don't know the Lord, that's the heart of God, to take care of someone else. I mean, in Scripture, in the Bible, it says no greater love hath man than this, that he lay down his life for a friend. And that's what you did, and that's what you want to do. I just think that's phenomenal.
Right here.
Well, it also says, in all due respect, what spoke to my heart was, I was sick and I was in prison and I was naked and I was hungry and you fed me not. And it said, when did we see the hungry or naked or in prison? He said, as you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. And that's what's on my heart.
Amen.
And I want to help someone. I want to be an encourager. We live in a world full of negativity. Nobody's got time to say anything encouraging. Sometimes we need to sit back and just think about, what can we bring to the table? What positive thing can we find in this? And I think that in your laughter and your music and also your husband obviously has, and everyone that I've heard so far. This is the first time I've ever heard the show. You all demonstrated so well. So with that, I take my hat off and I bid you, God bless you.
Well,
and I mean that,
well, we thank you very much for that, Edison. Thanks so much for listening. And you're in Virginia, and so I appreciate. Where are you listening on? What do you listen? What station are you listening on there?
It's 590. What is it? It's 590 AM radio station here.
Is this out of Roanoke?
Virginia? It is. It's in Bonnier, Virginia. It's being transmitted out of that, and I go from that. Yes, sir.
Well, great to have you along. Great to have you in the audience there, and thanks for being such an encouragement to us today.
Thank you for being
Appreciate
there.
the call.
Morning. God bless you.
Bless you.
Hey, listen. I was just thinking about that. This is Easter week, and we one of the 7 last words of Christ, and I've heard sermons on this my whole life. I grew up as my father's a minister, and they always preach, John, the 7 last words of Christ. You've heard this. The words he spoke from the cross. Well, I always used to count the words when I was saying, I think there's more than 7 there. And I did. I was so confused by this. I remember Dad was preaching on this. I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's more than 7 words. I was literally sitting there in church doing this on my fingers, counting the
I can see you there. I was told there would be no math.
And I was, but the 7 words that Christ spoke about this from the cross. And and I was as I'm wont to do every Saturday before Easter, I watch the Passion of the Christ, and that's something I do for me, just my time. And I was watching this again, and one of those last 7 words was Jesus delegating care of his mother to John, and he said, "Woman, behold your son; son, behold your mother." In other words, he was serving as a caregiver right there at the very end, making sure that those things were taken care of. And I thought, wow, what an example and what a blessing. So I appreciate that, Edison, and the call from that. All right. So how are you doing today as a caregiver? Because a lot of folks this time of day, they're coming home from the hospital. They're going to the hospital, coming home from the nursing home, going to the nursing home. There's a lot of stuff going on. And maybe you're in the car right now and you just think, wow, a show for caregivers? Who'd have thought? Well, I thunk it. because I know how important it is for caregivers to stay healthy. Healthy caregivers make better caregivers. And so how are you doing? That's what this show is about, is to help you answer that question and then move you to a place of healthiness. We're so grateful that you're with us. 877-655-6755, 877-655-6755. This is Peter Rosenberger. We'll be right back.
Have you ever struggled to trust God when lousy things happen to you? I have. I'm Gracie Rosenberger, and in 1983, I experienced a horrific car accident leading to 80 surgeries and both legs amputated. I questioned why God allowed something so brutal to happen to me, but over time, my questions changed, and I discovered courage to trust God. That understanding
Ed was on the ball.
and appreciation for quality prosthetic limbs led me to establish Standing with Hope. For more than a dozen years, we've been working with the government of Ghana and West Africa, equipping and training local workers to build and maintain quality prosthetic limbs for their own people. On a regular basis, we purchase and ship equipment and supplies. And with the help of inmates in a Tennessee prison, we also recycle parts from donated limbs. All of this is to point others to Christ, the source of my hope and strength. Please visit standingwithhope.com to learn more and participate in lifting others up. That's standingwithhope.com. I'm Gracie, and I am Standing with Hope.
Here's some great news. If you missed the deadline to sign up for health insurance, or if you signed up for a plan you're not happy with, you still have a choice. MediShare is a healthcare sharing program. Hundreds of thousands of Christians are part of this. It can save you a lot. Typical savings for a family is about $500 a month. You can join MediShare anytime. It's easy to call and look into it. There's no pressure at all. And man, what a difference it can make. 855-25-SHARE. That's 855-25-SHARE.
To my knees, will I fall? Will I sing? Hallelujah! Will I be able to speak it all? I can only imagine. Yeah.
Welcome back to the show, For Caregivers, About Caregivers, hosted by a caregiver. This is Peter Rosenberger, and I am so glad you're with us. 877-655-6755. I had somebody ask me to put the camera back on you, Gracie.
I'm sorry.
We're showing this on Facebook Live here. And Gracie's in there just rocking on that song, and
which you can find
Peter Rosenberger
by searching for Peter Rosenberger,
yes. or Hope for the Caregiver,
Caregiver,
Standing with Hope. It's all out there. We're all out there, and we post the video out there. In fact, you're editing our videos now.
I'm editing the videos. Actually, I had a rather busy week last week, so I wasn't able to get right to it.
I wasn't too subtle, was I?
Oh no. Are you wearing weighted gloves?
Bricks in my glove.
That's a heavy hand you got there, bud.
I wasn't subtle.
I'm so grateful that you're editing the videos now.
But listen, we're glad you're with us. If you want to see more about what's going on, standingwithhope.com. Standing with Hope is the ministry Gracie and I founded many, many years ago. This was her vision of creating a mechanism to be able to provide quality prosthetic limbs to her fellow amputees. And part of that journey is we recycle prosthetic limbs. We collect them from all over the country. I dropped off Grace, I don't know if I told you this, but we had a box of feet that came to us. John always loves it when I say these things, but we had a whole box of feet that came from a prosthetic shop. And really great feet.
Peter, I'm really trying to get you on this metric thing. They're meters, all right?
They were feet.
John, do you know when he was born? Come on, he's way older than me.
It's and this came from a prosthetic shop, and they had collected these things. I'm brand new, never been used, and so I took them over to the prison, run by Core Civic here in Middle Tennessee, where inmates recycle these for us. And I got my little ID badge, so I could go in unaccompanied.
Wow.
To around the prison. I just walk around the
Do you
prison.
think that they'd let me go in?
Well, you have to pass your ID. You have to get a little ID and all that kind of stuff, and you have to go through the training that they do. And I did. I went through that, and I would go over there and just hang out with the guys. And I was able just to sit down with these men who made some bad choices in their life. They own it. They're dealing with it. And they have qualified to be in this program. It's one of the many faith-based programs that Core Civic does. And they help us disassemble. Then we're getting ready to put together a pallet, and then they're going to pack it all up for us. And then we ship more stuff with it over there that we have to purchase. But these things we can recycle. And they have it all organized for me and inventoried. And it's just wonderful gift that they do. And these limbs come in and supplies come in from all over the country from this that we can recycle that normally we just discarded, thrown away.
I know. And
this is a great vision that you have. And now we have the second program, Mary, which is Standing with Hope's caregiver outreach, which this show is about. Listen, let's recap here. It's been a great show. Gracie, thank you for being here with us. And our caregiver tip of the day that was brought to you by AARP of Tennessee, it is don't just do something, sit there. Don't feel this burning need to be frenetic. It's okay to sit down and be still. We caregivers are highly functioning multitaskers anyway, and it's okay for you to sit down and just be still. It really is. It's okay. In fact, it's not only okay, it's imperative. So don't just do something, sit there was our caregiver tip of the day. And then our senior moment of the day. And these are two little features we do throughout the show. Gracie's laughing at our senior moment. Well, I came up with that idea.
I'm looking at my senior moment.
Hey, man, I need a whip and a chair here. I mean, come on.
Wait a minute, what happened to John and Gracie? Gracie and John's moment.
All right, but our senior, I've lost control of the show, John.
You lost control before you ever started.
I'm going to cut both your mics.
The loved one you're taking care of may not just be having a hard time, giving you a hard time. They may be having a hard time. And it's okay to look at it with a little bit more compassion and detach from and realize it's not always about you. They may be having a hard time, and ask God for wisdom on how to be able to speak better into that so that you and your loved one can move more peacefully through this. There's so much more out at standingwithhope.com. I'd like for you to look at getting involved in what we do. See it. There's the books, the CDs. Gracie's book is out there. And then this will be out on our website a little bit later on, and we podcast it at the Caregiver. It's called caregiverpodcast.com. And I hope you'll go out and take advantage of all these things we're putting out there for the family caregiver. We're grateful that you're with us. We'll see you next week. And next week, it'll probably just be me here in the studio. I'm thinking that right now.
That's not very fair.
All right. You can come back, Gracie.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, listen, this is Peter Rosenberger. This is Hope for the Caregiver. The book is Hope for the Caregiver. Get a copy of it today, and we'll see you next week.